So some conservatives are starting to lash out over this Don Jr. news. The New York Post editorial board declaring this: Donald Trump Jr. is an idiot. David French, who we just mentioned, of the National Review, writing this: Americans who aren't troubled are Americans who need to check whether their tribalism has trumped their good sense. And Quinn Hillier of the Washington Examiner writes this: for Trump's three most politically important associates, family members, to be so blinkered as to not recognize this meeting invitation as being morally compromising is for them to bring serious dishonor to a candidate and father with any sense of honor. Strong stuff. So here now to respond is former Speaker of the House and author of the #1 New York Times bestselling book, Understanding Trump, Newt Gingrich. Newt, you've been listening to all of this tonight. What do you think?
I think we're going through a period of fevered insanity. You have a meeting. First of all, somebody suggested the Russians have a technique of setting you up so that they co-opt you. Well, if that was true in this meeting, I've written 3 novels about terrorism and international spies. If they were setting them up, where were the goodies? Where was something in there to get to a second meeting?
Well, the suggestion, Newt, is that the goodie is what we're living through right now. The goodie is that he took the meeting and that there didn't even need to be anything that was transmitted in that meeting, that taking it made him look bad.
Taking it makes him look bad. He agrees with that. He said the other night on Hannity that if he had to do it over again, he'd do it very differently. But looking bad and having a United States senator suggest that it's treason is such an absurd jump. And I want to go back to what I started with. People are saying, well, gosh, this is how the Russians operate. That's baloney. If this had been a setup by the Soviets or by the Russians, they would have had something there to get to a second meeting, to get to a third meeting. I think it's much more likely that what you had were emails, by the way, from a British publicist for a Russian singer. And the emails from the British publicist exaggerated the woman who walked in the room. She walked in the room, and she had so little to offer that none of the 3 people thought the meeting made any sense. And that's precisely what they've said. Jared walks out. Apparently, Manafort is on his cell phone, right. And Donald Jr. has said as a courtesy, he talked to her for 20 minutes, but she wanted to talk about this adoption bill that affects one very wealthy Russian. My only point is, if after 9 months, all of these hearings, all of these investigations, the best we can come up with is a 20-minute meeting with a lawyer who had nothing to say, that there's zero relationship. By contrast, we do know that a Democratic National Committee person flew to Ukraine, worked with the Ukrainian government, sought to get information about Donald Trump, and by the way, or about Paul Manafort. And by the way, I don't see Mueller putting that on his list of investigations. I don't see that kind of collusion seeming to bother anybody. So you have a totally one-sided anti-Trump story hyped up with a level of hysteria that I think historians will look back on and think this is like the Salem witchcraft trials. Yeah. A period of fever in which people assert things that are silly.
If you sort of go backwards on it, right, and you're looking for, where is the actual event that so apparently turns the election, right? And all you have are the emails, right?
Event.
Now, even if you believe, the Hillary Clinton version, which is that she lost because of the emails, and there's a lot of other reasons, with regard to health care premiums that were rising and no, campaign trips to very key states. But she has said that the emails turn the election. Now, there's no connection necessarily that goes back to the Trump campaign in releasing those emails. Now, if that were to surface, perhaps you might have a link, but we still don't have the meat between the pieces of bread here.
Look, it's not even that. Let's put it in context. You want to talk emails? How about the 33,000 emails Hillary Clinton destroyed? Okay? Now, how come that's not a crime? How about the fact that Comey leaked documents that belonged to the FBI in clear contravention of FBI rules? How come that's not a real big problem? I mean, let's just go down the list. How come Bill Clinton's getting $500,000 from a Moscow bank? That's not a problem. How about the fact that the chairman of the campaign's brother was a registered agent of the Clinton campaign, registered agent of a Russian bank? Oh, that's not a problem. How about millions of dollars going to the Clinton Foundation while the Secretary of State approves uranium being given to the Russians, being sold to the Russians? That's not a problem. This city, right now, the news media in this country is in a frenzy that is leading it to desperately seek something. They know something was wrong, they just don't know what it is, and every time something comes up, they grossly exaggerate it. The Democrats pick up the exaggeration, then the news media picks up the Democrats, and we get up in what I think is the equivalent of hysteria.
Hyperventilating. Thank you very much, Nip. Good to see you as always tonight.
Anytime.